Hello, friends and members of the Creation Research Society. Dr. Brown here. On today's member spotlight, we are joined by, more of a math guy. I'll let him clarify exactly what all that means. We've got Jim Mirabella with us today. Jim, welcome.
Thank you.
So Jim, start off with that. You know, we are a scientific organization, the Creation Research Society, but that
Mhm.
involves all sorts of different aspects of science, including, shall we say, statistics.
Absolutely. I mean, let's face it, all over creation is, and how many times do I hear, what's the probability the Big Bang comes true? What's the probability this? What's the probability that this could have all happened? So if that isn't statistics intermingling with creationism, I don't know what is.
Okay, so take us on your little backstory about how you got into that field. I know your background is in business administration, like officially the title, but you're really a stats guy. How
Yeah.
did you get into math and stats? And then how did that interweave with your biblical worldview?
Okay. I grew up in the church. Went to Catholic grade school, Catholic high school, military college at the Air Force Academy. But
Okay.
I was in an all boys high school, and my favorite math teacher there was also teaching statistics as an elective. So when I was a senior, I took it because I wanted to take his class. I didn't have a clue what the course was about. People told me, stay away from it. It's hard, it's boring, whatever. I loved it. He was so great. I fell in love with the subject. And I asked him what he had done. He told me he was in the Air Force for a while and he was an analyst. And I followed in his footsteps. I even dedicated my dissertation to him because he
Okay.
inspired me so much. But that was where I really fell in love with statistics. So when I went to the Air Force Academy, I majored in it, and I was an analyst in the Air Force. But I wanted to get graduate degrees. Well, at the time, there were no degrees in statistics to speak of, but I was living in Alabama, and Auburn University was about 5 miles from my home. So I said, "Oh, I can get in." I actually went to the business school there and asked about teaching. The math department, I really didn't stand a chance with them. The business school said, "Well, if you can get an MBA, we can let you teach statistics, business statistics." And I thought, how much more fun it would be to teach applied statistics versus theoretical in a math
Yeah,
department.
yeah.
So I got the MBA, they hired me, and I became a stats professor for Auburn. And I kept doing analytical jobs everywhere I went. And I always looked for adjunct teaching jobs. And sure enough, business schools were always looking for stats professors for the business department. And then I found out I really needed a doctorate if I wanted to really do this permanently. So I got a doctorate in business administration. Once again,
Gotcha.
not really a stats degree offered to speak of. There were some, but not. I would have had to quit my job and go be some lackey for 3 years to be able to do that. So I was able to keep my job, get a business degree specializing in statistics, and then I was able to become a full-time professor in statistics. So that's how I grew into that.
No, that helps me a lot because now I understand a little better. It's just so I've met you a couple times in
Yes.
person. A lot of these interviews I've not actually met the person in person, but we've run into each other at a couple of conferences, including the last Creation Research Society conference.
Mhm.
Okay, so where does your biblical worldview come in your story?
Well, I grew up Catholic where it's not quite the same as what I am now. They tended to look negatively upon Genesis as it was a fairy tale, where I went to in the Catholic faith. But I loved my teachers. I loved the education I got. I never thought much of it and went through college, still didn't think much of the creation evolution ideas. And then I had a son and we start to teach him. And I start to get disturbed about the way I see the school systems are. That's when you really light up. You don't notice,
Sure.
like, you don't notice bad things on TV till you have a child and you go, I can't believe I watched that stuff. And you start to really be aware. And we decided we were going to homeschool him to protect his faith. And I was digging into a lot of stuff. First thing I really came upon, well, actually, before I did that, we were homeschooling him, but we did send him to a church preschool, kind of a half day thing. And we thought that would be just a good experience. We homeschooled him through everything else. So anyway, he's doing the half day preschool, and this lady comes in with a lab coat and teaches evolution.
This
And
is at
I'm like,
a church
at a
preschool.
church school, yeah.
Okay.
I'm like, so because she wore a lab coat, everybody, oh, and she talked about how dinosaurs got stuck in the mud and whatever. I'm like, what nonsense. And my kid believed it because an expert told him. All she did
Mm.
was put on a lab coat. An expert said it. So I started researching, thinking I've got to arm myself with this. First thing I came upon was Dr. Kent Hovind. And I watched his videos. It took me about 2 weeks to deprogram 1 hour of brainwashing. And I thought, that's it. He's not continuing with this. We homeschooled him the rest of the way. And I made creationism a regular part of the education. I subscribed to Eric Hovind stuff. I became a big fan of the ICR and Answers in Genesis. So I started eating up anything I could creationist. And I really looked hard upon it because I realized it took a lot more faith to be an evolutionist than it did to be a creationist. But it takes a lot more courage to be a creationist than to be an evolutionist. Because
I like
I
how you
work,
said that. More
I
courage
work in a
to be
university.
creation. Yeah,
It
and
well,
so
it's
you're
not,
still in a secular work environment, just in a secular university.
I am in a very secular university that celebrates Darwin Week and promotes the nonsense. You need special permission if you want to do a Christian anything on campus, but the non-Christian stuff, feel free. That's just the way it is.
Sure.
Um,
Well, and
so
that's one of the goals of the Creation Research Society is to connect folks like you. I think there are more people out there like yourself than you or I realize. People that when I
mm,
was in secular academia, it feels very isolating. You feel like you're kind of all alone there. And our goal is not to um, what's we want to be salt and light,
yeah,
even in a secular setting. Our goal is not to just separate from all that and
no,
avoid it, but to be salt and light in that setting as well.
you're right. My feeling, I know there are people who are like-minded on my side of the fence, but they don't act it. They are afraid. They're afraid of losing their jobs. They're afraid of being cast aside. So they just kind of blend in. And I'm like, why don't you? Well,
Yeah.
and I'm like, I'm sorry. To quote God's Not Dead too, I'd rather walk with God and be judged by man than walk with man and be judged by God.
Hmm.
So I refuse to cave, even if it means losing my job. And I've been that way for years. Well, I'm not super popular with the faculty, but I'm very popular with the students. The
Good.
students talk
Good.
to me. In fact, they talk to me about their faith. They tell me about what's going on in their churches and stuff because they know I'm open about it. And I don't really have that relationship with colleagues, but that's okay. I'm not there for them. And I know I'm not there to change them. Like you said, I'm there to be salt and light. And if I just reflect Jesus in how I teach, I don't have to actually teach the Bible. I just have to be myself. And if people see that, they come to me and talk to me about their faith. And it's amazing how it can work. So, as one pastor told me, I am in a mission field. Make no mistake about it. I don't need to go to a jungle in Africa. I am in the biggest mission field we have in the United States, academia.
Very well said. And I hope this encourages others out there to not just sit on the sidelines. There are multiple ways people can be involved. You don't have to be out front necessarily. And
No.
here's what I mean by that. Some people are in sensitive positions that they could get outed, especially
Mm-hmm.
in the heavier sciences. I think
Yes.
stats probably you have some leeway there because you're not talking biology in the classroom
Right.
necessarily. And so there are sensitive situations out there, and we respect that and we'll protect that, but still try to get involved somehow.
Well, and the other thing is too is how you teach it. I don't have a problem with a biology professor teaching evolution, but you teach it as a theory, not as fact. You say, this is what Darwin theorized. That's all you have to do. You're not saying you need to believe this or you're failing the
Right.
class.
Yeah.
I tell people you can believe what you want to believe, but I'm still going to present my material. I can't change their views. I can just show them the data. I actually have a coffee mug that says, "In God we trust. All others bring data." And and I think it's important that people understand. It's like, if you have an opinion about that, that's great. Give me the evidence. I want them to learn to think, not think like me, but think. And
Okay.
that's something we don't do.
So that perfect. It takes us full circle back to stats in creation science. So here you are, a stats guy and a Bible believing Christian. And how should stats take a larger role in creation science?
Well, kind of take it back a little bit. I was going on one of those fossil trips down the Peace River. Rich Overman was the one leading it. And we went with some friends that have little boys, went on the little canoes and, got some fossils and stuff. And it was fascinating. It would have been great if my son was young at the time that we did that, but he's grown up and out of the house now. But I still enjoyed it. And I got to talking with Rich Overman a lot. And he was finding out my background. He said, we don't have statisticians in this area. He said they do great papers, but they lack analytical support. And I didn't know that. But come to think of it, it makes sense from the stuff I've read. And so he shared with me a lot of stuff and then told me to connect with people. He had told me go to that conference in Arizona and go to the conference in St. Louis. So it was his mentoring that got me to do that. And I approached my boss. I really don't know where my boss stands on stuff, but he's great. He leaves me alone on everything. He's very supportive. I believe he's a believer, but he's one that he would never show it if he is. So I have no problem. I respect him. And we have to publish so many papers every year, 2 years, whatever it is. And it's really nauseating because you do research on obscure stuff to get in a journal that nobody reads, that takes a couple of years before what you wrote gets printed, and then you get praised for outstanding researcher. I want to be an outstanding professor. I don't really care about publishing in an obscure journal nobody reads just to check a box
Yeah.
because they want to. I am really good at research. I have led over 70 dissertation committees. I've taught research methods. So I know what good research is, and I would rather equip researchers than waste months on this. So I was told that my papers were expiring and I needed to get 2 more papers done this year. I spent months trying to get papers published, submitted them, they got rejected. And I was like, I'm at my wit's end. And I said, can't I go a different track? And he said, the only other track we have available is consulting. And I said, what does that involve? He said, well, you get to consult anybody, professionals in your fields. In other words, it doesn't have to be business. I just have to use my statistical skills since I'm a stats professor, and I can consult anyone even outside of the business community as long as I document it. And I have to do a little bit more. I have to do at least 3 of them per year. And I'm like, are you kidding? That's it? And and so I'm saying, great, I can open myself up into a place where I can actually give back and do something that's rewarding, where I'm putting my God-given gifts to use. And so I said, I'm going to open myself up to the creation community where I can do research and analysis for them for free to the extent I have the time and everything out to do it and work with them. And I get credit for it for my job, but more importantly, I get to do something important in God's kingdom.
Well, what a unique opportunity to be able to use your skill set in this way for the glory of God. I think this highlights exactly what we want to see professionals doing
Mhm.
in the Creation Research Society and beyond in the creation movement. Um, so, Jim, this is a great example of how professionals can be used and their skill sets, their God-given skill sets can be used. I want you to have last word here. Um, what give us a Bible verse that means a lot to you, either creation related or otherwise.
Yeah, while Genesis 1 for 11 is a place I have really enjoyed reading a lot. Ken Ham has made me, love it a lot more than I ever loved it as a kid. A verse that really stands out to me because of my world is Joshua chapter 1, verse 9, which is, have I not commanded you, be strong and of good courage, do not be afraid, do not be dismayed, for the Lord your God is with you wherever you go. And I have been living proof of it because I know God has protected me through a lot of fights in the academic world, and I'm still here, despite the fact that I am outnumbered. I'm still there because, as one pastor once said to me, you plus God equals a majority. And I've never let that go.
Well said, well said. And to all the scientists out there, um, if you are doing some creation research and you need some help with the stats, don't take that lightly. Take it seriously. I mean, we
Mhm.
have to have rigorous studies, rigorous data, and you want to consult with a statistician early on. Is that fair?
That's fair because the reality is evolutionists don't need evidence. They just need ridiculous theories and the world believes them. With us, they want proof, they want evidence, and then they still try to blow holes in it. So we need to do due diligence in our world.
All right. Well, Jim, thank you for offering your gifts for the glory of God, and hopefully some creation scientists out there can take advantage of that. Thanks for joining us today.